Okay guys, so in the last tutorial we have set up our widget. So if you press V and if you press V again, this thing doesn't it hides and shows, which is really good. And we have created these blocks and these widgets that we can reuse here as well. So this the lesson for today, we gonna let me just resize my windows here. So the lesson of today, we gonna be creating a structure. That's where we're gonna be holding our information and how we're gonna display all that into the word, like how we're gonna display this. We're gonna be basically populating this widget here, right? So to do that, we're just gonna go back here. We're gonna save everything that I have. I'm gonna close everything, and let's create the structure. So to create the structure in here, I'm gonna go to my blueprint. I'm gonna right click. Actually, let's do one thing a little bit better. So instead of call blueprints in here, I am gonna call this thing here the building system. Okay. And the reason why I'm gonna call this building system is because I start to have a lot of building system stuff there. Normally Unreal Engine does this kind of stuff where it duplicates the folder because it has some reference. So I'm just gonna go ahead and delete that. Don't worry about that reference from here right now. And right now what I'm gonna do here is, let me just go here. Let's fix all the redirects and everything. Yeah, probably doesn't have the folder anymore. Nice. So we have now this folder called building system. You can press play. We have our character. Press V, open up, close. So let's do this. So we're gonna create here a new folder called variables, right? And then inside this folder variables, we're gonna create a structure that's gonna be, and then we're gonna create a data table that's gonna be our widgets and sorry, our building parts. Right? So the player can select those. So to do this, we're gonna go to blueprints class. Oh, sorry, wrong place. Here we're gonna go to, where is it? Blueprints. There we go. Structure. We're gonna call this st building part, and we gonna open up this. And then in here we're gonna need 3 variables. So the first one is gonna be the icon, which is gonna be texture 2D, sorry, texture 2D, what is it? Nice. The next one is going to be the name of the part, which is we're gonna use name, that's fine. And the next one, this is where it's gonna be interesting. So this is gonna be the part, the class that we're gonna use to spawn in the word so we can interact with. And this is gonna be called building part. And now, this is where things get a little bit tricky, but so if you go here to the building system, we have created 2 parts. We have to create 2 blueprints. One is the base building part, and the other one is the base building socket. So the base building socket will be attached to the part, but the part is the parent. So what we're gonna do is that we're gonna copy this name here, and we're gonna search for here. And then here, what we're gonna do is that you're gonna select the class reference. Don't select the object reference. Just to give you context, object reference is when the part is already instantiated in the word, and the class reference is when you have the rest of the class. That means that you can spawn this item automatic, right? So I have done that. So now I am gonna go back. I'm gonna close everything. That's all we need. Let's go back in that to the widgets. To the variables, and now we're gonna create here the structure, the parts, the things that we can use to build our game. So the list. We're gonna have 3 main things here. We're gonna have floor, we're gonna have a pillar, and we're gonna have a wall. Then from there, this is the base. Then from there we can get creative and create more parts if you need to. Yeah, so to do this, we're gonna right click in that. We're gonna search for miscellaneous. We're gonna go to data table, and we're gonna search for st building part. And now the st building part, we're gonna call dt building part. And in here, we're gonna create 3 new rows, right? So the first row that we're gonna create here is gonna be called floor. The second one is gonna be pillar. And the other one is gonna be wall, right? And then in here, what does it have the name? It's gonna the same thing. Wall, pillar. It's gonna call pillar, and then you're gonna have here floor, right? And now we need to select the icon, right? And this is where things get, you know, if you have your own icons, if you have your own library and everything, that's great. But right now I don't have any parts, so I'm gonna go to just open up my browser here. There's this site called Games Icons, which is awesome. They have a lot of icons for free here. And let's see if we can find some building parts. Yeah, we can find this buildings. Let's check here. Right, so what we're going to do here is I'm going to select 3 random icons. It doesn't necessarily represent what I'm trying to build, but it's just so it gives me some, you know, vibes of what I'm trying to do. So I can select this for the wall. I can select, let's see this, where is the floor? Let's say this for the floor, and let's say we have the one for the pillar. There we go. So we're gonna just reset this because I was messing around with the design before. And I'm gonna download all those assets, and when I finish downloading, I will import to the engine, and then I'll be back with you guys here. Okay guys, so I have downloaded all my assets in here. What I'm gonna do, I'm gonna close this for now. I'm gonna go to where's my project. In the building system, I'm gonna right click, I'm gonna create a new folder called texture. Right, and inside this folder, I'm gonna create another one called icons, because I'm not sure if I'm gonna use to add more stuff. So icons, or you can even go back and call building part icons, so it's more so it's better. And here I'm gonna open up here my Windows, so I'm gonna go to downloads, I'm gonna drag and drop those items there, which is really good. And here we go. So I'm gonna save everything. Don't worry if it looks a little bit blurry, it's just the Unreal Engine taking some time to process out those images. Okay, so to do this now, we're gonna open up our blueprint, the part again, our DT table, and here we can search for those icons. So there's many icons in there, so let's go back straight away to the folder here. It's easy. So the first one is the floor, so this is the floor. The next one is the pillar, and the next one here is the wall. All right, so now we have all this stuff set up, and now what we have to do here is when you press play, when you press V, we need to display that here. So yeah, let's do this. So to do that, it's really simple, nothing too complicated. I have a tutorial already that does this, but if you guys don't know how to do it, I'll explain how to do this really quickly. So what we're gonna do here is when we boot the system, we're gonna create another method in here that will basically get all those parts and store here for us. So what we're gonna do here, I'm just gonna rename this to say handle the widget, the building part widget, right? Let me just put here. And the next one I'm gonna create here is, let me just organize this a little bit better. Cool. So here I'm gonna create another custom event, and this event name is gonna be called load building parts, right? Load building parts. And what we're gonna do here is that we're gonna basically load all those parts that we have created in this data table inside the variables. How we do this? Really simple. So when we call this, we're gonna call the method get data table row. Oh no, sorry. Get data table row, right? And the data table here, and then we have to connect it. Which rows do we want here, so we can do stuff on that. Now what we can do here is get data table row, which is no, get data table row names. There we go. Okay. So basically what we have to do here is loop through all those rows and then get the data out of here, right? But here it asks us to select which table we want to use. So in this case we only have one, so we're going to select that here. You could even go further as well. You could create this as a variable and then you connect in there, but for this case we don't have that much stuff, so it's fine. Okay, so what we're going to do here is just going to do a for each loop. So we're looping for every new row that we have. And what we can do here is to make sure that's working, we're just gonna test here. And I'm gonna get this loading blueprint parts. And in here, when we open the begin play, we're gonna call this, okay? So we're gonna loop that, let's press play, let's see if it displays something. You see? Wall, pillar, floor, which is great. So every time the game boots up, we basically are loading all those parts. So it's going to be ready to use. You could do this as well when you open the widget. You could do that. So it takes less resource, but that's up to you how you want to call this method. So you could do something, for example, you could call this method, let's say you're trying to open that, you do something like this. I think that's probably, yeah, I think this is not a good idea because every time it's going to load the data. But you could do something like this if you want to. Right, so let's go back to the way it was. Let's continue here. So to do this, we need now to get a row name in there, okay, using this get data table row. And now we have to store this into an array, okay? And the reason why we have to store this in an array is because we're gonna have to pass this array as a reference to the widget so the widget can loop and do stuff on it, which is really good. So to do this is we're gonna promote this to a variable. And this variable is going to be available building parts, or I don't know how you want to call it. I'm going to make sure it's public because I do want to access this from other places. And in here, I want to make sure we set this as an array. So change the variable type. So you see that it's going to complain here. It's going to say this is not going to work, blah, blah, blah. So you can delete this. And the way you can actually build an array here is that you're gonna get the array and we're gonna call a method here called add, and then here we have two adds. So we have add and add unique. In this case, we specifically want to use add unique just because we want to make sure we only have one of these parts, we don't have two of those parts. Yeah, so that is cool. So we have this done now, and the way you can check if this is actually working is that we can do a print here. We can get that, and then we can get the length, and here, and now if you press play, it should say 3 there, which is really good. Cool. So to make sure now that we can actually load this is very basic. So on the widget, when you open up the widget, we need to pass this as a prop in here, as a variable. It needs to be passed in there. So to do this as a variable, we're gonna open up the building menu. Come on, yeah. And now we're going to create a new graph here. We're going to go to the graph where we have variables. First of all, we're going to delete all this stuff. We don't need that. And in here, we're going to add a new variable. And this variable is going to be called building parts. And the building parts, this is an event, my bad. The variable, building parts. This building parts here is going to be the type of array. So if you see here, we have st building parts. So what we can do here is that we come down, we're gonna search for st building parts, and make sure you mark that to public. Make sure this is an array, compile and save. And now there's another option very important you have to do here, which is basically expose on spawn. Okay, so we're gonna compile and save. And now if you go back to the controller and you compile and save, that should be exposed to spawn. The only thing now that if you press play, nothing happened because you have to tell that you're looping through those and displaying that data. Okay. So what I'm gonna do here, guys, is just to keep the video short, I'm gonna stop here right now, and then in the next video we're gonna finish setting up the widget, and then we're gonna start to play around with the events and callbacks to display so the player can build actually the part. So once again, thank you very much for watching, and I see you in the next one.